All right, welcome back. I think it's live, so let's go into it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bio 201 week 4 as we wrap up our section on chemistry and cell biology. After this week, we're going to we'll finish the first quarter of the semester here, right? And you'll be done with your second exam of the semester as well. So, moving right along as we get into the semester of the spring of 25 here. So just want to encourage you guys as you're doing a great job. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about our exam first. So we've got that exam published. Let me throw your canvas up there for those of you that are paying attention on video. You can see that. I'll give you the student view. Let's go to your modules. Really remember that's where your class lives. So if we go into those modules there, you'll see that again the exam here, it's published, it's right at the top. It's also, I think, in quizzes. And so what you'll see is the exam there. You'll click on it, you'll get into it. It's not open until tomorrow. It is worth 100 points. So you can see there, this exam will contain 67 questions. It will be worth 100 points, and it will cover Chapter 2, which is the chemistry of life. It will cover Chapter 3, cell biology, and I think you'll have about an hour and, let's see what it says here on the time. You will have, all right, let me leave. "75 minutes." Let me see. 90 minutes to complete the exam. You'll have 90 minutes to complete the exam. I'll correct that. And primarily multiple choice questions, as well as some short answer questions as well. So you'll notice that there'll be short answer questions as well as some multiple choice questions. You'll have 90 minutes to complete the exam. And it's spread up pretty evenly as well. So you'll have 33, 34 questions. Each question's going to be worth 1.5. So let me just do that math there. And so what you'll see is, again, it's 67 questions. Each question will be a one. Each question will be 1.5, so it comes out to like 100.5 per question. And it will open on Thursday. So tomorrow it'll open, and on Thursday, open on close on Thursday. No, that it will close on Sunday, right? So it'll open on Thursday. It will be open until Sunday at midnight on February the 9th. And so let's see here. Let me see if I just get my writing utensil here. Okay. I think I got something to write with. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Okay. So, yeah, 67 questions, 1.5 points per question. This will include about uh, split evenly 33 to 34 questions for each chapter, chapter 2, chapter 3. And then ultimately, let's take a look at what we're looking at. With some of this material, right? So, chapter 2, we've talked quite a bit about chapter 2 in the last week. That includes just some basic chemistry, everything from your atoms, elements, and particles, those subatomic particles, what's a proton, what's a neutron, what's an electron, what's an isotope, those types of terms there. Of the elements in the human body, what are the elements that make up approximately 95%, right? Elements of the human body. In mass, right? Or carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen equal 90, let's say approximately 96% of body's mass. That's a big one to know when we're talking about that. And chemical bonds, ionic bonds, covalent bonds, and hydrogen bonds are going to be the keys that we talk about when it relates to that chemistry chapter or the basic chemistry. The second half of chapter 2 includes that biochemistry component, so the organic molecules, meaning carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. What is their function? So, what is the function of carbohydrates in the body? Well, it's a readily energy source. It's primarily an energy source. Where is it location? Well, it's stored in the liver and in the muscles, but there's also glucose contained in the blood. It's transported through the blood. And what are examples? So, as I mentioned, the example of carbohydrates are glycogen. So, that's the densely packed form of muscles within, excuse me, of carbohydrates inside of our muscles and liver. And then glucose is the smallest component that's used for transport, right? And is used as a fuel. So glucose is the molecule that's transported from the areas of storage to the skeletal muscle or whatever cells are going to use it, and then ultimately it is used and broken down to the ATP that is going to help to actually drive the energy, drive the processes of a cell or ultimately an organism. And then water, we talked about in the previous portion of the chemistry. Remember that water is a polar covalent bond, and water is a big component of the cell. Up to 60 or 70% of the cell is water, and the electrolytes are these cations and anions, right? These charged particles that in mass will actually cause a charge. So they allow for an electrochemical gradient that inside and outside of the cell. In chapter 3, there we go. In chapter 3, we talked about some of that cell biology. So when we talk about cell biology, the first thing we talk about is the cell membrane. And let me do a little something here because I'm going to delve a little bit further. The gradients of ions in the extracellular fluid and the intracellular fluid is going to be important. So, meaning that, let me see if I can't show you a picture here. And you can see here that the big ones that I want you guys to know particularly is going to be the fact that you can see here that sodium has a high concentration outside of the cell. Potassium is in high concentration inside of the cell in the intracellular space, right? So those are the big ones that I want you to know, as well as the fact is as a result of the concentration gradients inside and outside of the cell, there's a charge, right? There's a charge, and that charge is one in which, I'll make it red here, one in which the outside of the cell, particularly like right adjacent to the cell membrane, is positive. The inside of the cell is negative, right? So the outside of the cell is positive, the inside of the cell is negative. Oh, sorry. And so that's what I mean by the concentration gradients. I'll check that part off there, right? The concentration gradients of the inside, outside, and inside of the cell. And as a result, there's the maintenance of that concentration gradient is primarily a active transport system referred to as the sodium-potassium pump. So the sodium-potassium pump is something that you guys will definitely need to be familiar with, in which what is the process by which the sodium potassium pump interacts. And so there we have, nope, so I'm going to find it for you. The sodium potassium pump is responsible for, again, placing 3 sodium ions into the extracellular space and placing 2 potassium ions. Oh, let me go back to that slide. Find that slide, right? Sorry. There it is. Mouse is a little touchy today. And 2 potassium. What am I doing? Maybe I'm clicking it. Oh, it's playing, that's why. I clicked on an automatic viewer. Okay. And then 2 potassium ions. This is something that requires energy. So you can see here that ATP is being phosphorylated into ADP, dephosphorylated, that is. And so this sodium potassium pump is a large mechanism for the maintenance of the electrochemical gradient inside and outside of a cell. And then the organelles, right? So be familiar with the organelles of the cell, whether it's the mitochondria, the lysosomes, the rough or the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the perioxysomes, or those cytoskeleton structures, microfilaments, microtubules, and intermediate filaments. And then the second half of chapter 3 is where we talked about, let me focus in a little bit more on that. The nucleus in the DNA, so talking about what is DNA, what is the structure of DNA, what is the makeup of the nucleus specifically as an organelle that contains the DNA, the cell cycle. So, let me go on talk about DNA replication first, right? DNA replication happens right before mitosis. So the idea of like when does that occur, as well as the stages of prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, and then protein synthesis. This is the second half of the cell biology that we mentioned in our lecture. And then finally that question, like, what is cell differentiation? So being able to answer the idea of what is cell differentiation. When I think of cell differentiation, I think of the term specialization. So when cells specialize, they differentiate, and they go from a stem cell, a cell that could become any different type of connective tissue, perhaps, whether it could be bone, it could be fat, it could be blood, and it goes from that stem cell into an actual bone cell. That is a differentiation, to go from a generalized cell to a specialized type of cell. And so that's kind of the technique there by which differentiation occurs. And how does it occur? Well, as cells divide, there's less cytoplasmic contents within the cell, and that's one of the triggers for the DNA. For the DNA coding, the genes that will then ultimately make the proteins. But the regional difference, location, is also a big factor in what genes are going to be turned on and off, what genes are going to be coded for, ultimately what proteins a cell is going to create as a result. And so what we're going to see is, in the next couple of chapters, we're going to look at very specialized cells within the body, the groups of cells, and we'll get into that here in the next couple of weeks. But I think that's enough time here. We're going to leave you here with a little bit of let's go back this way with a little bit of the highlight, remembering that we've got our test here on Thursday. It'll stay open until Sunday at midnight. Please don't wait until 9 or 10 o'clock at night to complete it on Sunday. But it will contain 67 questions, 100 points each. These questions will be multiple choice, multiple answer, and short answer, and it will cover chapters 2 and chapters 3. You guys have been doing such a great job. I look forward to looking at all your responses over the weekend here and encourage you to keep up the great work. But until then, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you again next week.